Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, the podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Myslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. Chris Kruger was just an average overweight guy back in 2010, and then he decided to do something about it. He ignored conventional wisdom and fitness advice and proceeded to lose 50 pounds in 70 days without endless cardio, counting calories, or excessive willpower. Chris has since shared his story and helped thousands accomplish their health and fitness goals through his hundreds of free YouTube videos and programs. Chris has become well recognized for his transformation truths, beasting, feasting, and fasting system, and more. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Scotty, what's up, man? I'm so happy to be here.
Great. Well, Chris, many will be familiar with your story and Kruger body and your transformation, but would just love to hear from your perspective, what inspired you to make a change way back in 2010?
Well, the lead up to that is I had this devastating back injury at work. So I was coaching football at a small college out here, and they were like, "Hey, we're doing an inside practice today, Chris. Go get that volleyball pole out of the basketball court, so we could do the walkthrough inside." And I went up to this pole and was like wrenching on it. And you know, like the volleyball girls take these poles up and down all the time for practice, but this one had been stuck, so they left it in there, and like the whole team of volleyball girls couldn't get it out. And I was like, "Oh, no problem. Let me go pull this out." And I just wrenched on this thing. I mean, it was like the sword in the stone. I mean, it might as well have been a tree. And wrenched on it and wrenched on it. And then the next day I was like, oh, I feel terrible. And before long, like getting out of bed, I would like have to walk my hands along the wall to like get to the bathroom. Got it all checked out and just blew out 2 discs in my lumbar spine. So the rest of that football season was entirely miserable. You know, I'm trying to like coach and be on the sideline, and, you know, the doctors were strictly like, okay, basically just try not to move. And that's all we can do. And then, you know, prescribe you a bunch of narcotics. Fortunately, I mean, this is like, you know, before we really realized that the opioid epidemic was a thing, but I've never been like, I'm going to take pills person. So I would ice it and do everything else that I could. I got into physical therapy doing it. My now wife was actually in grad school then. She is a physical therapist. So she would work on it a little bit, and I was able to avoid taking the pills. But my back was just jacked up for, I want to say like 2 or 3 straight months of just absolute misery before these discs healed up and I wasn't getting all the pain. Before they healed up enough for me to even begin any sort of exercise, any sort of beasting. And then from there, this happened. So the injury happened right in the fall. And then by Thanksgiving, 2009, I was healed up enough where the doctor was like, okay, yeah, you can start exercising again. And previous to this, I'd already been on YouTube. I already had this thing called the TSC Heart of a Champion program. And I'd helped 2 friends from my high school. These guys were, you know, they were the big guys. And I helped each of them lose like 80 pounds of body fat. We actually staged a bodybuilding show between these 2 guys. And they had incredible transformation. So I was already doing this transformation thing. And I was like, well, my back is jacked. I've gained 50 pounds eating what, in hindsight, was a mostly vegan diet. You know, I was like crushing Oreos. And like I said, I was doing this little coaching job and my wife was in grad school. Like we were really poor at this time. So I had this miserable back pain, and I'm eating like the only thing that feels good is to crush a bunch of Oreos, and then we're poor. So we're eating like pasta and tomato sauce every night. And it was that football season where I gained these 50 pounds. And just, you know, I smelled, my thighs were covered in cellulite. I had a big jiggly belly. I'd huff and puff, bending over to tie my shoes, like just pure misery. But I already had a plan that I had been sending out to people. Like I was on YouTube back in 2008, and people have been sending and having amazing results with this program that I'd already written. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do that program, and I will record myself every day as I do it. And with that, I go through just like I laid it out for everybody else. And in 70 days, I lose 50 pounds. I'm in shape. I feel great. And then I have a little clip like 6 months later, day 183, even more shredded. And I think you said in the intro, it wasn't at the time, it isn't the program that it is now. And this is something that I see in other, all over health and fitness is you're supposed to believe what's common sense or what's conventional wisdom and just apply that, calories in, calories out. Well, the program that I was doing back then was the best I knew how to do at the time. As a 26-year-old guy, everything I'd known, everyone I had helped up to that point.
Yeah.
But what I think we all need to challenge ourselves to do is to continue learning and improving. Right now, that program has undergone these little tweaks that make it so much more powerful. And that's when I started integrating, a low carb approach, extending the fast, experimenting with 100% carnivorous diet. I did, this was 6 months before Sean Baker went on Joe Rogan, I had on my YouTube channel an Apex Predator Shred Fest where I did nothing but beef and butter for, I think, 28 days and then did my blood work. And, having so much fun with this stuff, but always challenging yourself to learn the next thing instead of settling for, oh, well, that's just common sense. Oh, that's just a conventional wisdom.
Yeah. I love that. I love that learning mindset. And I actually didn't know that your story had started before 2010. And you had sort of these programs in place to work from. I actually didn't know that part of the story. I thought it was just, you got hurt. I knew that. I didn't know the extent of your injury, but that sounds miserable. I've had back injuries myself, not that bad, but they are really life-changing in a negative way. And then I thought, you overcame this and you turned that into a program and a system to share with people. But it's super interesting to hear that you already had this and then you had this challenge in your life and you put your own work to the ultimate test on yourself. That's really cool. And I'm curious, Chris, you talk about the physical changes, but you must have also, you talk about it a little bit with other downsides of being overweight, but what changed outside of your physical appearance when you're able to make that transformation over those 70 days? What changed in your personality and your character?
I want to say absolutely everything, and I think everyone should be able to relate to this, is deep down, I hope that everyone believes that they are a hero just waiting to happen. Okay, some of us have had easier roads and harder roads to get wherever we are right now. But whatever obstacle that you're facing, during those months when I was hurt and injured and pounding the pasta and the Oreos, is that diet creates that feedback loop where it's like, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I wonder, is there a way, I start doubting myself. But somewhere deep inside that whole time, I knew that I was going to come back from this thing. Obviously there are doubts. I would question myself and be like, hey, is this it? And just to think how fast being on that terrible, vegan Oreo pasta diet is just a few months before, like, I'm a shredded dude in my mid-20s. And all that weight comes on, everything changes about me physically, and then mentally, that feedback loop of I'm eating this crap food, I feel like crap, I'm thinking like crap, but knowing that deep down inside that eventually my back would heal and I would be ready to transform again. And I want everyone out there, and the saddest thing to me is to go to the beach out here in California And you see these little kids where it's like they've never had a chance at experiencing like health and fitness and running around and just having never known what it's like to be healthy and fit and not to be the fat kid. So I had known that. But for everyone out there, it's like you can transform. You can apply proven principles and make it happen no matter who you are. And I just knew that it was going to happen.
Yeah, that's right. I love the, accepting that you can be a different type of person. I have the luxury of never being, actually obese or extremely overweight, but I've heard a lot of people in that experience, when they start to lose weight, they almost can't accept their new self and their new reality as someone who can be of a normal weight and healthy and active. It's almost defying their identity. But I love how you talk about overcoming that and allowing yourself to be healthy and be fit. And can you talk about, I know I'll definitely link to all of your sites, all of your programs, Chris, and your videos are awesome. But for folks who are less familiar and just dipping their toes in the water with your approach, can you talk about some of the things you use to allow yourself to make that incredible transformation?
Well, with the original 2009, 2010 transformation, it was the best information I had available at the time. And to be honest, the training portion of the program has changed very little. A couple minor tweaks to the exercises, the sets and reps, all that stuff is the same. But the biggest change I've made since then is the diet. And this is where things are now effortless. Even though I was in my mid-20s on that original comeback, now I'm in my mid-30s. I'm working full time. I've got a kid and a mortgage and all this stuff going on. It is so much easier for me to maintain and even improve on the shape I had back then because I've made some tweaks. So back in the day, it was, all that conventional bodybuilder wisdom. I'm cutting, I'm doing 6 small meals a day. And the way I kept improving was like, okay, I'm eating 6 sandwiches a day. And then I would go through it and do like 6 half sandwiches a day. And then I would do 6 half sandwiches, but only a quarter piece of cheese. And then I would get down to quarter sandwiches. And the whole idea, the thing that makes it so unsustainable is that you just have to keep doing less and less and less to get where you want to go. Eating, you have to keep doing more. We always say exercise more, eat less. That's common sense. That's thermodynamics. And of course, in the long term, that's total baloney. That is the crash diet that everyone has been on. And then, for myself and for everyone else out there that gets to that like professional fitness model body, this is like before Instagram, but like that, wow, that guy could be on the cover of a magazine body, is that now you're just working so hard to plan all your calories and all your meals and doing the Tupperware and making it ridiculously difficult because it is ridiculously difficult. And what I've done and the giant leap forward has come realizing that it's not about that calorie game. You still, obviously thermodynamics still apply. We still need to win the calorie game, but we can't win it by playing it. We can't win it long term by eating less and exercising more. That's a system that breaks. So the game that we have to win, and the secret really is that it is all about winning the hormone game. When you win the hormone game, you get to win the calorie game by default. It's an automatic win of the calorie game when you win the hormone game. And what do our hormones respond to? The signals that we give it. Or give them. So what do we need to do to show our body that we're thriving, that we do not need excess body fat, that we're not saving it up for a long, cold winter? We need to do all of the things that are like we're thriving on the summer savanna. We need to beast. We need to mimic hunting. We got to go and spend this ATP, this adenosine triphosphate, so that we have to regenerate it. We got to deplete glucose from our liver and from our blood, from our liver as glycogen and from our muscles as glycogen. We got to spend that sugar. We got to break our muscle tissues down a little bit by beasting. And then we need the reward from having done that, which is the feast. And then, because in nature there are no refrigerators, there's no pantry cupboard, you fast until you do those first two steps again. And I think my biggest breakthrough, the one thing where I'm like, yeah, I think I maybe thought that first, is simply that hunger does not mean eat. Hunger has never meant eat. Hunger means hunt. And then once we can wrap our minds around that, like, oh, I'm a little bit hungry, I should go to the cupboard, or I should go to the pantry, or I should go to the refrigerator, or I should go to McDonald's or any other fast food spot. Once you think hunger means hunt, as soon as go outside your door right now, you're a little bit hungry, go outside your door, warm up your Achilles tendon, and do 6 25-yard wind sprints. Come back in and tell me if you're still hungry. No, you're not hungry. In fact, you feel great. So it's putting those steps together, beast, feast, fast, that allowed me to go from 6 small meals a day, cutting down to half sandwiches, to quarter sandwiches, to a quarter piece of cheese, to no cheese, to having to have cottage cheese and do all that bodybuilder PM protein nonsense and take supplements. Well, actually, I don't think I've taken supplements since college. The 2010 transformation is 0 supplements. But having to do all of that hard work and having to make it so complicated and whittling it down to beast, feast, fast. You win the hormone game. You automatically win the calorie game. You get to look your best, feel your best, and be your best.
Yeah, that's great. And Chris, what kind of results have you had with clients and customers over the last 8 years? I know just looking at your website, some of the transformations are incredible, but could you just talk about some of the highlights in your own words?
One of my favorite people, the kid has a megawatt smile, lights up a room. You know him, William Shewfelt. He bought my TSC Heart of a Champion program in early January 2017. And I think he actually told his story a little bit on your show, but he bought that program January 2017. And this was coming off of being like 4 years a vegan or something. And he's trying to keep his mind together and his health together while he's down shooting the Ninja Steel Power Rangers in New Zealand. And bought that program, the same 70-day program that I had done in 2009, 2010, but with all of the updates. So like I said, the whole program has been an evolution from 6 small meals a day to beasting, feasting, and fasting. Even if the beasting is still very similar, sets, reps, all that stuff. But if you look at William Shewfelt's after photo from 70 days on my program, it blows your mind. It's from like a sickly, and he always looked good, but like as, a not feeling good, smaller, weaker vegan to just becoming a total beast. And of course, he's gone on and done, amazing things. He's out collabing with Dr. Baker and the Bell brothers and doing cool stuff. So for me, that is the one guy. And then for a lot of years, I had a personal training business in LA where I worked with actors, actresses, studio executives, fancy big shot, super agent type people. And all of that's been fun. Another one that comes to mind is this guy, Lex, in Northern California. Total dad bod, like I've given up at life. And that's, the things like, you can just do standard American diet, standard American, and I always say DLE, diet, lifestyle, environment. You can do that for a while and it never hits you in the face because, oh, you only gained 5 pounds this year. Or maybe you only gained 2 pounds. But when you're 20 to 50 pounds overweight a decade later, then it hits you. You're like, I got to do something. So Lex did his 7 days. And that's the thing is, there's so many of these great transformations because that's just what happens. That's what happens when you pair beasting, feasting, and fasting with human physiology. Like, these are proven principles. Your body doesn't have a choice. If you do these things, you're going to get your hormones doing what they're supposed to do, and the results take care of themselves without having to obsess about every calorie, and, counting everything and making it so hard. It really should be next to effortless. It should be when you invest in yourself this way, it is such a net benefit because of the way you look, the way you feel, the way your whole life lifts up.
Yeah, it's something that's truly sustainable for life. And that's what I find so great about the program. You're getting out of your own way, in a sense, and allowing your hormones to work for you instead of trying to battle against them and bumping up against a brick wall. And Chris, let's just go through each of those a little bit deeper, the beasting, feasting, and fasting. And I'll start with the feasting piece. Just would love to hear your thoughts on a carnivorous diet or a ketogenic diet, and why you've chosen to adopt that more, and how it's sort of diametrically opposed to what else is becoming popular today, a vegan diet.
Okay. My YouTube channel, I want to make it all about the truth and getting to the truth. I call the videos Transformation Truth. And it, as kind of a side hobby of that, becomes dismantling veganism because it is false. And I'm not setting out to rain on anybody's parade, but it's a false, the whole thing is false. It's a bad idea. And once you break it down and start thinking about it, it doesn't make any sense. And I don't want to spend our whole conversation here. Let's get back to talking about the benefits of keto and a carnivorous diet.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. What I think the biggest leap forward for everybody and where everyone can have great health is once you transition from fake foods to real foods. What we want to eat is foods that have zero ingredients. Fish is fish, beef is beef, and egg is an egg, even spinach, cauliflower, cucumbers, whatever. As soon as you start buying those things in boxes and packages that have a ton of ingredients, you're back on the path away from health. You're getting yourself lost again.
Yeah.
So for me, and I think people probably brought it up too, because I think there are a lot of us just finding like that Zero Carb Zen website back in the day and coming to this same conclusion that, humans are the ultimate apex predator. And we have the ability, most of us have the ability to fully thrive on 100% carnivorous diet. If you took away all the other foods and said, Chris, we're just eating, pick your favorite animal, we're just eating cow, you're going to fully thrive on 100% beef diet.
Yeah. I love, that's exactly what Amber O'Hearn says. And there's this common meme of people saying, everyone is different. Everyone's individual. Your diet needs to be customized for you and specific to you. But I think it's actually different where there's a baseline that everyone will operate pretty well off of. And you can build from there, but we're all, our evolution is so deep, and any sort of individual differences that we've created over the course of our lives or even the past few generations of our family are probably much smaller than what we evolved to eat as an apex predator, as you put it, which is largely a carnivorous ketogenic diet of real foods. So the way you put that is really great and definitely resonates. And then, Chris, on the fasting piece, I'd like to dig in a little bit deeper because I think this is what you're so well known for. And I'd love to just hear you start with why is fasting so advantageous and so good for your hormones and your health overall?
Fasting is just the natural state for your physiology. Okay, it's what I said earlier is hunger doesn't mean eat, it means hunt. And in the wild, there are no refrigerators. We're going to beast and feast and fast every day. And so you would expect to find like, oh, well, if that's the natural order of things, and people, asked me before, like, Chris, isn't fasting an eating disorder? Absolutely false. It is the only eating order that makes any sense. Feast and feast and fast. And then you look at what fasting does. You can look into the work of Jason Fung, who's a huge proponent of it. You can talk about Walter Longo and what he has to say about fasting. And it's all good things. It's autophagy and apoptosis, sending the signal to all of your bad dysfunctional cells, the ones that are going, at any time in your body, you might have hundreds or even thousands of cancer cells in your body in a healthy person. And the thing is, those things become tumors and become malignant when you let them continue to grow and grow and grow. So what you do is you fast because you're strong enough to survive the fast, but those dysfunctional cells are not. You starve them to death and you send the signal to, hey, you're not helping me, go kill yourself. And it just brings you right back to this baseline of incredible health. And for what it does, and also dipping into ketosis. A lot of people will obsess about their macros and like, oh, I want to eat 75% fat or whatever. No, we don't need to worry about getting into we don't need to be worried about getting into ketosis or even staying into ketosis. What we want to have is the metabolic flexibility to effortlessly dip in and then bump out of ketosis. And you do that with fasting. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to eat a huge meal and say, Chris, you can only digest 30 or 40 grams of protein at a time. That's baloney, homie, because the test we're doing there is someone that just had 30 or 40 grams of protein 2 hours before. If I've been fasting for 23 hours, what is my ability? And I've already beasted, then I've got ability to accept so much more protein. So we get pigeonholed into like these very narrow things that we believe based on some study that was done in some way that has been and now it's just been repeated and repeated and repeated.
Yeah.
So you beast, you feast, you fast. That is the order. Fasting does nothing but good things. Like the most effortless weight loss, you want to have like effortless long-term weight loss, eat 6 meals a week. So it's a 23-hour fast. You have mental clarity. Even if you overeat protein and there's a little gluconeogenesis happening, the fast dips you right back into keto. You're productive all the time. Just for the way you look, the way you feel, the way you function, it's putting those three things together. And I don't think you can say one is more important than the other. It's like they're all important. They all are this feedback loop that says, hey, it's summertime on the savannah. You should be filled with optimism because, and even there, like for your mental health, when I was 50 pounds overweight with cottage cheese thighs and a big gut, my mental health was in a dark spot. Like I would literally stay in this dark apartment and eat Oreos and feel bad. But as soon as you start sending the signals, like literally stepping into the sunlight, letting your body synthesize vitamin D, as soon as you run around, like the natural state of mind for a hunter is pervasive optimism. If you're like, hey, we're going to go chase that herd of animals, and you're thinking, man, shoot, we're never going to catch them. Look how fast they are. You know how hard this is going to be? Then you're going to be a very unsuccessful hunter. Like everything works together. We start running, we feel better. We start feasting, we eat the right foods. We feel like everything becomes summertime on the savannah. We get the sunshine on our skin. Everything starts to get better when we just change our DLE, our diet, lifestyle, and environment.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And Chris, I love the complete feedback loop. So we talked a bit about the fasting. When you do eat, is there a certain time of day you eat, or do you think time of day for your sort of one meal matters? And how many meals a day or a week do you like to eat?
Well, I like to have all of these habits. There's a great book. I think the author's name is Jeff Olson, but it's called The Slight Edge. And so there's a level that you can do all of my practices, my daily practices at that are not the level that I do. Like I've consciously tried to build everything that I do up to like the black belt master level. So I don't want it to sound intimidating to people when it's like, oh yeah, you want to have like effortless weight loss, eat 6 meals a week. Like, if I eat 6 meals a day, like I can't do that. And, it's maybe a 10-year evolution of my thinking and my practices to get to where I'm 6 meals a week most of the time. So I want everyone to know that there is an entry level, a white belt, beginner, novice level to everything, to beasting, feasting, and fasting. For the little old lady, like if you can just get up and walk outside your door, that's the place. That's your beasting. Okay, you've depleted some glycogen. 100. That's awesome. And then for feasting, 100% carnivorous diet sounds intimidating for people that are like, oh, but I can't have raspberries. You're crazy. That's unhealthy. Like there's a place where we can start that isn't, the max level.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. There's a 50% answer, an 80% answer, a 99% answer. And probably, the 50 or 80% answer will get you almost all of the return on investment from each of these. And so for you personally, Chris, if you're eating normally 6 meals a day, or a week, 6 meals a week, what do your meals look like? I imagine it's like very large amounts of food.
Yeah, well, one of the things my wife and I just saw, we're at Costco before Thanksgiving, and Costco, and I think Whole Foods did it too, is like they have the turkey is a really great deal, right? It's like $2.99 a pound for like organic turkey. And like, wow, that's a great price. And so, because that's just the price they want to like get you in the door. Like, oh, come in and buy your turkey, and then you're going to buy all your other stuff that's more expensive. It's a loss leader. It's marketing. Right. But I'm thinking like, man, we need to get a big freezer and just buy up all these turkeys at $2.99 a pound because this is really delicious. So what we just did is we just roasted up a turkey, and it was a 15-pound turkey, and my wife and my 2.5-year-old and myself ate this turkey over like 3 days. So yeah, it's a lot of meat. And where I am now, based on my body fat percentage and my taste and preferences, like I absolutely don't mind putting cranberry sauce on the turkey and even having a sweet potato. And that's the thing that I think as, people that have used keto for a tremendous advantage or used the carnivore diet for a tremendous advantage is to not be so dogmatic and be like, I'm only a carnivore for the rest of my life. And I'm like, well, that sounds great until you're like, hey, you want some ice cream? And I get it. Ice cream is not going to make you look better. It's not going to make you feel better, except in the moment. It's not, it's not doing anything for you, but dang, ice cream's pretty good. And I would like to have some in the moment sometimes.
Right.
But yeah, and this goes back to the fact that it's all about daily practices, and every day is not an ice cream day. So the main thing is that every regular day we're eating a lot of meat, getting complete protein and animal fat, and then we will supplement that with some other real foods. But it's always like a garnish,
Yeah.
And the thing that we should all stop doing, everyone should stop doing, is believing the hype on fruits and vegetables. And, Sean Baker's elucidated this. So many anti-nutrients, phytochemicals in there. Like the plant doesn't want you to eat it. It can't run away. Like the relationship we have with prey mammals is totally honest. They've got hooves and horns. They can run away. They can turn and fight. If you're trying to hunt, that's their mechanism of defense. The plant, their mechanism of defense is chemistry. They will just try to poison you slowly. And even tomatoes have nicotine in them, and it's a pesticide, and it's going to kill little insects and prevent them from eating them. We're just bigger pests that are more able to tolerate the poisons that are in some plants. It does not mean that they're good for us.
Yeah.
So let's all stop believing the hype on fruits and vegetables and say, okay, these mostly wild seeming berries, they seem to be pretty good, and squashes and sweet potatoes. But anyone out there still recommending, and I know there's doctors that are like, I've cured this disease with 9 servings a day of, leafy greens. Get out of here. Anyone that's trying to eat first of all, you can't do that unless you cook it in animal fat or cover it in oil. It just tastes horrible. And you're just poisoning yourself with all of the phytochemicals, the plant chemicals that are trying to poison you. So that's all the way bad advice. But what I would say is for people, I have in my program this list of green column foods. So blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, go for it. No one's obese. We don't have chronic Western disease because people are overeating strawberries or blackberries or raspberries. That's not why we have chronic Western disease. And we didn't talk about this really in the intro. We jumped right into, talking about my back injury and my 70-day transformation. But the thing that brings me so much purpose is having seen my dad deteriorate and seeing the medical care that he was given. So when I got home from school one day in 6th grade, it's like, oh, your dad's got prostate cancer. We think it's already spread, but there's a chance if we take his prostate out as soon as possible. Well, it wasn't as soon as possible. They wanted to do at the time. They called it watchful waiting. They're like, your dad's got prostate cancer. It might be spreading. It might not be spreading. So we're going to do watchful waiting and see if it does. So they do watchful waiting and they're like, you know what? It looks like it might be spreading. The PSA numbers are going up, whatever. Let's go in and cut his prostate out. Which of course, for anyone that's had your prostate removed, it like pretty much takes all your like manliness out of you right there. Like right on the operating table. We're just cutting out your manliness. And I saw my dad for the next 6 years just battling on all fronts because chronic Western disease is killing you on all fronts. It's obesity and diabetes and heart disease and most types of cancer all rolled into one. And those are the diseases that we're scared of and that we're dying of. And my dad is fighting all of these. And like every night I would go to bed just praying that he would like make it to my high school graduation. And the morning of my high school graduation, my dad looks at me and he's like, buddy, I don't think I'm going to make it today. So he lived to my high school graduation. He started hospice a couple days after I graduated, but didn't get to see my graduation and then died while I was still 18 years old. And the whole time, like, oh, well, hey, my dad's name is Jim. Jim, you got, you got diabetes now. You're a type 2 diabetic, so eat the American Diabetes Association diet. Great. So we all think we're chipping in and helping my dad fight diabetes by sitting down to like big bowls of whole wheat pasta every night as kids. And like my mom is obviously anxious and depressed about my dad's cancer and worried and everything. So she's eating the American Diabetes Association diet. Oh yeah, just have, eat these healthy whole grains. She's ballooning up out of control, in terms of obesity. And me and my brother are just getting chunky. And then it's like, oh, well, you got to follow these American Heart Association recommendations. And the whole system is so broken and no one gets treated as a whole person with this obvious root cause. And the obvious root cause is metabolic syndrome, which we should call hyperinsulinemia. We are eating so many grains, so many carbohydrates, pumping so much insulin that we just can't cram any more carbohydrates into our fat cells anymore. And then your blood sugar goes out of control and you face heart disease, cancer, stroke, obesity, diabetes, the loss of limbs, all of this stuff. And that's that's my reason why. That's my purpose. And yeah, as a younger guy, I definitely wanted to look good. Now, looking great is just the natural outcome of beasting, feasting, and fasting to prevent chronic Western disease. Feeling great is a natural outcome of beasting, feasting, and fasting to prevent chronic Western disease. So that's what got me started was my dad's disease. And then I have a 2.5-year-old. I mean, all I want to do is live till I'm 100 so I can see when she has a 2.5-year-old and maybe when that 2.5-year-old has a 2.5-year-old. And, we have massive amounts of purpose that we can harness if you start thinking in terms of because I love people. And everyone out there hopefully has people that they love that are worth sticking around for, that are worth, if it's your mom and dad, it's worth helping them. If it's you, it's worth you taking control of your life so that you can be there for your kids. Because nothing like can't even imagine the trajectory of my life, how it's changed, how it's rippled through my family to lose my dad at 18 and wanting to be healthy for the people that love you and to be an example to help them be healthy.
Yeah, Chris, that's incredibly powerful. And thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine what that must have felt like with your father. And I think you're doing an amazing job helping thousands of people. And you are so relentless with your content and your push and your drive to bring truth and provide these easy systems for people. So it really shows. And I didn't know that story, but it's amazing what you've been able to accomplish and the drive you have put into all of this.
Well, thank you.
And I'm just curious on a few more things with the fasting, because I know a lot of folks struggle with the nuances, and I'm sure they can get a lot of this from your program and from your systems. But do you ever advise during the fast anything like water, salts, coffee? What types of things do you advise your clients to help them thrive through the fasting period?
It's water, and then by extension, mineral water. You know, if all the electrolytes have been filtered out of your water, well, maybe we should drink some water that has them back in there. Or alternatively, you can just add a pinch of salt to any water, you know, a pinch of sea salt.
Yeah.
And that just helps you to have the electrolytes. So, oh, well, I'm fasting, I'm feeling a bit run down. Obviously, if we're going to go out and drink from the stream, you'd probably have some electrolytes in there. So yeah, spring water, mineral water, adding sea salt to water. And then as far as coffee, and I don't want to like rock the world here, but coffee, I believe, is an unhealthy plant food stimulant. And I'm not going to tell anyone, hey man, you got to give up caffeine. I mean, I just want to be honest about what it is. It's like when you see these studies where it's like, oh, red wine, that's so healthy. Everyone should drink 2 glasses a night.
Yeah.
Baloney, homie. And the same thing with coffee. Like, I understand that you're a caffeine addict, that you feel you have to have your coffee, that coffee is like a warm blanket to you. But that doesn't mean that it's healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm not the first person I don't want to be the first person to like rip it away from you. I'm just saying, let's beast and feast and fast. Let's drink water. And if you're not going to pump a ton of insulin off of, your cup of coffee or your 2 cups or your 3 cups of coffee. But in general, it's just something that's not helping you. And one of the things I talk about in the full version of my program is that whether it's a caffeine addiction, a carb addiction, is just the cycle of addiction. And the fact is, you drink that coffee and now you think like, oh yeah, now I've got tons of energy. I needed that energy. I was a little drowsy. Now I've got tons of energy. But that thing that you take, whether it's the carbs or the coffee, like with the coffee, it's like, well, wait, now I'm just, when it gets into the evening time, I'm just a little more stimulated, not perceptibly, but maybe I just don't sleep quite as well as I would have, or I don't fall asleep quite as early as I would have, or I haven't made sleep a priority. And then I wake up and I feel a little drowsy and unrested. So what do? I drink coffee. But the way you break that cycle is you stop having the coffee. And then you go out and beast and feast and fast. And then you're like, oh, sleep. I'm going to get to sleep a little earlier. I'm going to sleep a little sounder. I'm going to have more deep, restful, and regenerative sleep. And if you need some morning stimulation and you want to, trigger some adrenaline to fire up, because that's really what coffee's doing. That's the work that coffee's doing. Is like, put yourself in a cold shower for 2 seconds. So my goal is not to take coffee from anybody. My goal is just to say, hey, is coffee a beneficial, healthful, and helpful substance?
Yeah.
And my guess is 2 seconds in the cold shower and then getting a better night's sleep is much more beneficial to you. But again, not my idea to take coffee away from anybody.
Yeah.
And then just back to addiction real quick to say if it's a carbohydrate addiction. So I wake up in the morning, I'm absolutely starving. So I have my healthy whole grain cereal. Okay. 2.5 hours later, my blood sugar has spiked and now it's crashed again. And I'm absolutely starving. So I have a bagel. And then 2.5 hours later, I'm absolutely starving. So I have the sandwich. And every time you're riding that blood sugar roller coaster that feels terrible. Well, it feels great as soon as you have the sandwich, feels terrible 2.5 hours later. Then you're at 2:30. You got that, you need your 5 hour energy because you've crashed again. You just feel like you need a nap. So that every time you go back up that blood sugar roller coaster, it's actually eating the carbohydrates that's making you need the carbohydrates again. I mean, that's just what addiction is. And if we can be honest, whether it's caffeine or carbohydrates, is let's cut it out. I said this just in a video I did the other day, is the only way to quit something is to quit it. As soon as you reload that trigger, then all you're reminding yourself is, oh yeah, I am still addicted to this thing. And that's anything, whether it's social media, pornography, caffeine, carbohydrates. As soon as you reload, you're saying, oh yeah, I do still like this. I do still need this.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, and you have to be careful with the coffee piece because people are so defensive of it. But it almost reminds me of protein again. Like the studies can show that coffee is beneficial, but in the context of what? Like smaller meals more often might be more beneficial for muscle protein synthesis, but it's in the context of someone that's eating every 2 hours or every 3 hours, small meals. So obviously that's the result you're going to get. And another thing you talk about sleep and circadian rhythms, Chris, is do you have if you're having one meal a day, it can be important what time of day you have it. If you eat a giant meal late at night, right before you go to bed, and beasting comes before that. So if you have a huge tough workout late at night too, that can disrupt your circadian rhythms. So I know you said the beginner to the black belt levels, but is there kind of an ideal time to practice the beasting and the feasting portion of it?
It depends on what your goals are. Like if your goals are strictly protein synthesis and you want to look jacked, then yeah, I might try to work out in the afternoon, feast after that, and then fast the right. Just so that you're doing the big workout when you're already warmed up, alert, ready. You move through your day, you still have plenty of energy. So early afternoon, big workout. Then after that, 30, 60 minutes later, your big feast, and then fast the rest of the day through to the next day. That can totally work. But in practice, that's not everyone's goal. And as long as you could beast, do a little, and really I have it down. I'm actually running a little self-experiment right now, trying to get the beasting down to the minimum and seeing, just focusing on winning the hormone game. How much muscle mass can I keep while doing the minimum amount of beasting? Because if, everyone's objection, well, Chris, I don't want to join the gym. Okay.
Right.
So one of my programs is 10-minute home workouts. So there's really, if you want to make a change, you can invest 10 minutes a day, obviously, in yourself. But I'm kind of like titrating the beasting down and seeing if I just beast the minimum amount, can I get these results by continuing to win the hormone game? And my hypothesis is that it's entirely possible to get down to 6 minutes of exercise or less. And really most of that exercise, air quotes, exercise time is spent resting. So that maybe the actual amount of work you're doing is 20 seconds. So this is possibly a future program. We'll see the results. But yeah, in practice, if you're going to beast and feast and fast, you just have to make it fit your day. So depending on your work schedule and what's most important to you, is you'll do the level that's appropriate and that fits in with your schedule. And for people that are starting, like the beginner level of fasting is a 14-hour fast, which is you stop eating at 7 p.m. and you wake up and you can beast and then eat at 9 a.m. So ultimately, I want to get down, immediately. Like it's bananas, but grandma was like, well, maybe not grandma anymore. Great grandma was like, don't eat that. You're going to spoil your appetite. But we've totally lost all that wisdom where it's now oh, well, you better have a snack or you'll get hangry. You need to regulate your blood sugar. Really?
Yeah.
Really? I think my body, like, if you really have to worry about regulating your blood sugar, you're an awfully crappy species. And the thing is, you don't. Like, great grandma had that wisdom. Don't eat that. You'll spoil your appetite. Guess what happens? Your blood sugar takes care of itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I heard a stat the other day that like 50 years ago, the average American ate 3.5 meals a day. Today it's like 10.5, or 8, 10.5, not necessarily meals, but it's just this constant grazing behavior, that really doesn't give your body a break.
I've definitely seen 7 referenced as like, so I can believe that. I can definitely believe that it's more. And that's why you're the ultimate apex predator. And we can talk more about how that is so obviously true. In fact, just look in the mirror. Do you have a forehead? Behind that forehead is your big human brain. I'm sitting here next to my Great Dane. Look at her face. There's no forehead. It goes eyebrows straight back. She got a little tiny dog brain. She's still, a top level predator, at least, or her ancestors were. But your big human brain is all the evidence that you need that you are the world's fiercest apex predator. Sorry, saber-toothed lion. Sorry, T-Rex. The human being with its big brain is the ultimate apex predator. And that's another feedback loop. You nourish yourself with meat, you're able to support evolving a bigger and a bigger brain.
Yeah. I think that's so obvious, and we're a lot more resilient than people think. And Chris, you somewhat addressed this with your minimalist exercise program. But what do you think about overtraining versus the need for daily activity? So, making sure you get that daily beast hormone reset in versus, making sure that you're getting the right intensity of workouts.
Yeah, well, as soon as we start beasting, feasting, and fasting and sleeping, like, people will be like, Chris, what's more important, exercise or nutrition? And I say, the answer is always sleep. It doesn't matter if you've got Bill Gates' bank account. If you get a crappy night's sleep, you're probably having a worse day than the person that got a great night's sleep. So we beast, we feast, we fast, and that's what does it. But what was? Sorry, I got so excited about talking about sleep for a second there.
No, I love the Bill Gates and sleep deprivation. But
seriously though,
it's so true.
You're having a better day, period. But sorry, I got excited about talking about sleep. Can we get back to the question you had?
Yeah. So just balancing, a lot of your videos, it seems like it's just a lot of exercise. And I understand, when you're fit, you're healthy, your hormones are operating well, you can kind of get away with doing that every day. But how do you balance, making sure you're getting in the right intensity of workouts versus making sure you're getting that daily hormone reset before you have the feast?
I got you. Excellent. So in my program, I have 5 levels of beasting, and you could say that, this is beginner to black belt. But the first level of beasting is just extra gentle movement. It's just getting off the couch, going out your front door and taking a walk. That's it. All we have to do is start breaking down adenosine triphosphate so that we have to recycle, so that we have to spend some of that glycogen, some of that glucose, so that we can deplete that sugar. And that's all you have to do. Now, if you're talking all the way up to overtraining, you're going to become so much more resilient as you beast and feast and fast that, I can remember doing these bodybuilder workouts in my early 20s where I'm like, oh man, I'm exhausted. I got the delayed onset muscle soreness. I'm just beat up. But I used to tell people, the worst day of your 70-day transformation will absolutely be the first Wednesday. And it's because on the Monday, you went to the gym and you're like, oh yeah, let's get at it. And you trained legs. And now by Wednesday, you're like super sore. But with beasting, feasting, and fasting, even that original super sore day, I feel like has cranked down from being like an 8 0.0 to like a 1.0 of discomfort. And again, that's like the level 4. There's too many numbers flying around here, but that's a very advanced level of exercise. You don't need to do that. You can start with extra gentle movement. You can start with something I call effortless endurance, which is just going so it's beyond just walking. Extra gentle movement, that's just walking. But if we just do aerobics, like we've heard, oh yeah, you got to do cardio for your heart. Meanwhile, you have all these triathletes and all these marathoners now that have literally short-circuited their hearts. They spend all that time training tremendously hard. You know, if you're running so hard that you want to quit, yes, you can use your big human brain to override that impulse. Oh, this sucks. I should quit. I want to quit. Yes, you can absolutely say, no, I'm going to power through. But there's a reason that you want to quit. There's a reason that it sucks. And that's because it's not healthy for your heart to keep it up at those high heart rates. So there's a level just beyond extra gentle movement that is effortless endurance. Can you go for a nice, easy run and go as fast as you can while breathing through your nose exclusively? That is like you could do that all day. That's a level that feels good. You can chase a gazelle to death in the summer sun because you're hairless and the gazelle wore a fur coat in the summer, silly gazelle. But you can chase a gazelle to death while only breathing through your nose.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it all gets back to the hormones and just making sure you get everything in the right place to make it almost effortless when things are running like a machine like that. And Chris, you've been in this game for a while, and you talked about the carnivore diet and how that's become more a part of your approach and low carb and keto diets and how you've come around to them. What's something else you've changed your mind about more recently?
That's a really great question, though. The thing is, the whole thing has been a constant evolution. Like I don't think I've ever been stuck dogmatically about anything. There was a time in 2014. It's another story that I like to tell people, but in 2014, I got engaged and we were going out to have our wedding in Hawaii. And at the time, and this is kind of what set me on the path to hormone optimization. Because still in 2014, I was like, okay, we'll just, we'll exercise more, we'll eat less, and we'll make it happen, and I'll get shredded because we're going to, I want to, have this sick 8-pack for my wedding. Except now I'm 30 years old when I'm out getting married. I'm not 26 anymore. I'm not 27 anymore. I'm 30. And I just didn't have the willpower to do it. And I think that's what everyone struggles for is everyone has done a diet or some type of diet. And let's be honest, all those diets are the same. As soon as you cut the calories and increase the exercise, that's a diet. And they're all the same. They're just rebranded with different macronutrients or whatever. It's all the same. As soon as you're counting calories and trying to win the calorie game. So my idea before my wedding was I will win the calorie game. I'll go to Hawaii. I'll be shredded. We'll have photos that'll last a lifetime. And I was already in good shape, but I just didn't have the oomph, the willpower to like get in great shape, to get like vascularly shredded for my beach photos. And at my wedding, one of my friends was like, he's an early CrossFit gym owner and was like, hey man, I think maybe the answer is paleo. And that is the last time I can remember thinking, like really resisting, like who knows if a paleo diet's even healthy? What about the healthy whole grains? And I got home and I started thinking, you know what? It's not working to play the calorie game. It can't be that I'm 30 years old and I can't get shredded anymore. What is the answer? What can I do? And I came up with, it's got to be the hormones. It's got to, the hormones are the difference. The hormones I had at 26 versus now 30 are different. And that's what really set me on the path of ancestral health, which then leads you to, gluten-free, which leads you to grain-free, which leads you to keto, which leads you to carnivore. That's what set me on the path. So since 2014, I don't think there's been, I just haven't cast up any resistance.
Yeah.
As soon as I find something and that's the question is it helpful? You know, if a carnivore diet wasn't helpful, even if it was totally natural, like let's say the myths that they tell you about the cavemen are true. Well, cavemen, they hunted meat, but they all had, arthritis and they only lived till they were 30 and they were 3 feet tall. So, it doesn't make any sense. You want to go on a caveman diet. That's stupid. So look into that caveman diet. Oh, they died at 30. The average life expectancy of cavemen was 30 years old. Well, that's because we're counting all of the skeletons. And if you're trying to birth a giant human brain in the wild, you're going to have very high infant mortality. In fact, surviving through adolescence is pretty precarious if you're in a band of wild human apes that are hunter foraging. So once you survive childhood, you're likely to live as a hunter-gatherer 30,000 years ago. You're likely to live well into your 80s, if not your 90s. But the average life expectancy can be shown to be, 30, because we're counting all of the dead infants that were born, that were attempted to be born without a hospital.
Yeah. There's a lot of myths out there. Yeah,
it's utterly ridiculous. And then you say, well, the average height, they were 3 feet tall. Well, that's because you're including all the infant skeletons for dead infants. Even as a dad now, it just hurts me to even say dead infants. It hurts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can always throw up immediate resistance. And on my YouTube channel, I'll say, look, if you're interested in becoming a vegan, if you're interested in giving up meat, go for it. As someone that promotes the health of low carb, keto, paleo, the best thing we can do is to just tell people, if you are interested in veganism, if you are interested in giving up meat, go for it. But don't make it your personal identity, and be honest about its health effects on you. So the thing to know is that 53% of people that go meatless go back to eating meat within a year. And overall, the statistic is like 84%. The best way to stamp out this bad idea is to say, try it for yourself. And if you go to every person thriving on the carnivore diet today, or even a low carb keto, like look at William Shewfelt. Absolutely did 4 years as a vegan, struggling to keep it together, incredibly hard, gets on my program when it's still low carb keto in January 2017, crushes it, puts on a ton of muscle mass, and has since then blossomed into carnivore. Like the best way to stamp out veganism is just say, try it, but be honest with yourself. Be honest with how you feel. Yeah. And just know that for 53% of people, you're back to eating meat within a year. And then I think we can, and that's the thing, it's about getting to the truth. It's about getting to what's helpful. And if this ideology is not helpful, then let's help people to see that. And I think the best way for people to see that is do it for yourself and be honest with yourself.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about you, Chris, in your videos is you're not dogmatic. When something does work really well, you hammer it home. But you definitely keep an open mind and aren't afraid to adapt your approach, which I think is really powerful and the sign of someone who's intellectually honest. So Chris, this has been amazing. Really appreciate your time. Would love to just end with, what are your goals going forward and where can people find out more about Kruger Body and what you're up to?
Okay. My goals going forward, my big goal going forward is to spread beasting, feasting, and fasting to everyone so that we can prevent and reverse chronic Western disease. All of the heart attacks, the strokes, the obesity, the diabetes, the limb amputation, the cancer, all of that stuff that does not need to happen. And the things that come with that, the way that big food doesn't care about us, the way that big pharma just wants to sell us pills, the way that the medical system is, I heard on your last episode, beautiful the way Dr. Ken Berry put it about, it's a feudal system. The doctors aren't there to use their critical thinking. They're there to, get to the next rung of doctorhood. And I want to spread beasting, feasting, and fasting. And even for people that have already seen the light of low carb or keto or carnivore, that have already seen it, is that even if you're already doing one of those things, you start beasting, feasting, and fasting, it takes you to another level. It makes your life easier. It helps you look better, feel better, and be better. And for everyone that hasn't been exposed to low carb, keto, or carnivore yet, is that it's a giant step forward. Just eat real food, like beast. Do exercise every single day. Do exercise that is appropriate to you. Feast. Eat real food. The base of the food pyramid is literally on it pasta, bread, and crackers. Literally, it says crackers on the food pyramid. The foundation of what we're supposed to eat is crackers. Okay? The cracker diet, that's what gives you scurvy, because you're not eating any fresh meat. It's not the carnivore diet that gives you scurvy. It's the cracker diet that gives you scurvy. But eat real food. So nothing that has to be mixed together and baked or put in a package or a box. Eat real food, the stuff with 0 ingredients. That's feast. And then fast. Hunger doesn't mean eat. It means hunt. So give yourself at least 14 hours every day to not eat, and preferably 23. But it's spreading those practices to everyone, whether they've been exposed to low carb, keto, carnivore, or have not, to stamp out chronic Western disease. There's no reason that any family should have to suffer the way that my family suffered during my dad's illness. And understand that disease is dis-ease. It is taking away from you the life that should be easy and effortless. It's dysfunctioning of the easy life that you should have. And beasting, feasting, and fasting is what gives you ease. It's what makes everything easy and effortless. And you don't have to count the calories or obey the food pyramid or any other silly dogma. Just do what obviously works and what feels good and what helps you look good and be good.
Yeah, that's great. And for folks who want to find out more and want to possibly use some more of your help, where can they find you?
What I have up right now, and all of your listeners, it is totally free for them. I have a free version of my Beasting, Feasting, and Fasting program. It is at krugerbody.com/secret, KRUGERBODY.com/secret. And I'll tell you, I have mentioned the secret already, but the secret is, it is not about the calories. If you want to win the calorie game, don't play. The way you win the calorie game is by winning the hormone game. So that is the secret. It's about beasting, feasting, and fasting. But I think there's a lot more helpful information in that free program, including a cheat sheet that puts it all, at a glance, that I hope all of your listeners will go get it. That is the best place to start. Even if you're already doing carnivore or keto or low carb, is that once you change your DLE just a little bit more, your diet, lifestyle, and environment, and implement beasting, feasting, and fasting, it just takes you up another level and another level and another level, because all of those things are skills. You can get better at beasting. You can go from white belt, just walk outside your door beasting, to black belt deadlifts with Sean Baker beasting. Okay. There's all sorts of beasting between beginning and mastery. And same thing with feasting, same thing with fasting.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. And I'll definitely link to all that in the show notes. Would highly encourage everyone to go check out Chris, check out his YouTube videos, check out his programs. And thanks so much again for your time, Chris. This has been a real blast.
All right, Scott, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered? Or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CarnivoreCast or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.